he would have had a hard time walking. His face was bound in a napkin, and Jesus said, "Go and loose him and let him go." Now the Pharisees saw this, and it was an undeniable proof that this man who called Lazarus forth was somebody other than an ordinary man. Therefore, they went about ever after trying to destroy Lazarus, because he was a witness of the power of God, and he was a witness as to who Christ really was, and they couldn't tolerate that. Jesus has the keys to hell and death. He has the keys to the grave, and these keys have never been given to anybody else. You remember last week when we saw that the keys, crossed keys, represent the papal power over life, death, and the grave, or hell, as they understand it. And the Pope claims to have these keys, and the Pope claims to have the power to put whoever he wants to into hell, or let anybody he wants out of hell through indulgences. The only one with the keys is Christ. So, question. If Christ is the first begotten of the dead, then how did all these other ones get out of the grave? How can he make the claim to be the first begotten of the dead when we know that we've had the widow of Zarephath's son, the Shunammite's son, all of them that were raised in the New Testament? Gerald?
There's two issues there. One is primacy, and one is chronology.
Yeah. Okay, explain that.
Chronology is 1, 2, 3. You know, I forget which one was first, but Lazarus, let's say he was number 3, and the little boy was number 2. That's chronology. Primacy is like the First Lady of the United States. There's been many First Ladies. But the current one, Mrs. Bush, is the First Lady now. That's primacy.
Okay. So what we see here is that nobody would have gotten out of the grave, ever, except Christ, as the Lamb slain, had the key to the door. From the foundation of the world, Christ is the Lamb slain. Nobody has life except by the gift that comes through Christ as the Lamb slain. All those that were raised from the dead, except for Moses, all those that were raised from the dead were only raised back to this earthly life. They were not given eternal life. Eternal life is yet to come. So we see here in this one verse that we have a refutation of the idea of when you die you go to heaven, right? Can we see that, the connection? Because nobody's in heaven except as Christ has led them there. And those that Christ raised from the dead were in their graves. Why would, if we just think about it, why would Jesus call Lazarus forth from heaven, if that's where he went when he died, and make him live again on this earth? He'd been in heaven 4 days, probably having a really good time, huh? Why would he want to come back to life on this earth? You think when he got here, Lazarus would have said, "Wait a minute, Jesus, why in the world did you do me this way? I was having a great time up there. I was sitting at the right hand of the Father, and I was, feasting at the table, and you made me come back down here and live on this earth. I don't want to be here. You've cheated me." Wouldn't Lazarus be able to say that if he'd been in heaven?
Sure. Every last one.
Sure.
It wouldn't make any sense for him to have to wait for 4 days and go to the tomb. He could have called him down from wherever he was.
From wherever he was.
Instead of calling him forth.
That's right. So we see here that this whole concept of where you go when you die is talked about right here in chapter 1. Through Christ being the first begotten of the dead. Because in reality, nobody else has ever died. Christ died the equivalent of the second death, which is total separation from God. When he died on that cross, he died totally separated from his Father. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He felt that separation. He saw that sin was so awful that it stood between him and his Father, and it broke his heart.
See, at our point of death, as we call it here right now, our sleep in the grave, we can still have the assurance, even before we take our last breath, that Christ is still looking over us.
That's right.
Keeping us safe.
Because he is the first begotten of the dead.
That's right. Where Christ could not see anything
No.
past the cross.
That's right.
Blank.
All he saw was that blackness of the pit. When Christ was resurrected, like we said earlier, a few slides back, he was the wave sheaf. This happened was as a perfect fulfillment. I'm going to read the verse here. Leviticus 23, verses 10 and 11, says, regarding the wave sheaf, "When ye come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow, after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it." Christ was crucified on what day? Friday. What did he do on Sabbath? Slept in the grave. When was he resurrected? First day of the week. And what did he tell Mary when she came in the garden? And I have not yet ascended unto my Father. When he promised the thief on the cross, "Thou shalt be with me in paradise," everybody wants to say, see, right there. He was going to be in paradise with that thief that day. Is that true?
No, it doesn't follow the rest of the Bible.
Besides the fact it doesn't follow the rest of the Bible, Jesus himself says, "I have not yet ascended to my Father." And this was Sunday morning. So if he hadn't gone to his Father yet, how did the thief on the cross get there? He didn't. That's true. When Christ told Mary, "I have not yet ascended unto my Father," what he was saying was, I have not yet presented myself as the wave sheaf. Give me a little bit. I'm going to heaven. When I come back, we will know that the sacrifice has been accepted. I will be that wave sheaf. And then he would accept worship from her. I just find it incredible that what is written there in Leviticus 23, verses 10 and 11, was exactly fulfilled on the day after the Sabbath. Christ rose from the dead and went to heaven as the wave sheaf, and then came back. Let's go to Matthew 27. We've said that Christ fulfilled all the types of the Old Testament sanctuary. Matthew 27, verses 52 and 53. "And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves," when? After his resurrection, "and went into the holy city and appeared unto many." There was a massive earthquake at the time of the crucifixion. There was darkness over the whole area there. And it wasn't an eclipse, it was darkness. God blotted out the light. Nobody understood the darkness. It was so black that they had to grope and feel their way along the road to get back to the city. They couldn't see anything at all. And there were graves opened, but they were resurrected after Christ was resurrected.
It just stayed open for a day, one day and a half, I don't know.
Well, from Friday afternoon until Sunday morning. So these bodies were thrown out of these graves, but they lay there. There was no life in them until Christ got out of the grave. When Christ was resurrected, then those bodies received life too.
Do you think that happened before he went to heaven as the wave sheep, or after?
Probably after the wave sheaf was approved.
Because that's where he went after he saw Mary.
He went immediately to heaven, yes.
The apostles that afternoon or evening.
Right. Because he wasn't in heaven very long. He just went up, waved the wave sheaf, went through the process of being that offering, came back to this earth, and when he came back to this earth, then those bodies received life, and they were his witnesses.
That would have been like the second coming
That's right.
to those bodies. Back, they were resurrected, had life. Of course, they went back with him.
Now they would have laid there, you'd be thinking, well, why would the Jews let these bodies be cast out of the graves and not do anything with them, not stuff them back in the graves,
They were afraid of what happened, period.
It was a Sabbath.
Not a Sabbath, too.
You didn't do those kind of things on the Sabbath. But if you touch a dead body, you are unclean.